Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we have a really specific, I think, high-stakes mission.
It feels like it.
We're taking all this feedback, all this critique on a specific piece of Art Glemar's sustained investigation, SI4, and we're going to try to turn it into a focused strategy for evolution.
Yeah, that's the key word, evolution.
The theme is already so powerful. It's all about how grief alters her thoughts, how it isolates her.
That's right. And for so many students working on the AP portfolio, revision is it's the hardest part. It's really easy to get stuck on just fixing a drawing.
Right, you get bogged down in the details.
Yeah, you do. So we need to zoom out a bit. Our goal here for you listening is to see how you can translate that kind of specific feedback into real strategies that strengthen two things.
What are they?
Your visual evolution over time and your ability to show a skillful synthesis of materials, process, and ideas. That synthesis, that's what separates a good portfolio from a great one.
And we're combining peer critiques with, the core AP art scoring principles. These things govern, 60% of the investigation's grade?
60% there and 40% in the selected works. So these moves we're talking about are designed to have a real impact.
Okay, so let's start with what's already working. Because the conceptual clarity here is, it's a huge foundational strength.
The inquiry is so strong and so immediate. The critiques, they all confirmed it. Viewers get the core conflict.
The feeling of isolation from grief. The caged figure.
Exactly. And they even picked up on the layers like cultural adaptation. That feeling of moving to a new culture. That tells you the depth is already there. It's resonating.
And visually, there's already this excellent control over how you engage with the piece. One source really highlighted the visual flow.
That circular motion.
Yeah, it starts with the macaw, that pop of color and context.
Yeah.
Then sort of pulls you to the surrounding elements and then bam.
Right to the golden cage and that isolated figure inside.
It's so effective.
And what's fascinating is that it's not accidental. This is intentional narrative control. It's designed to guide your emotions right to that point of isolation. The symbols are working.
The cage, the macaw, the colors.
They're all communicating. So now we move from clarity to, let's say, mastery. We need to take that conceptual power and push the visual skill. And we do that under the microscope of formal analysis.
Okay, let's unpack this. It can be hard sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Moving from the very emotional process of making art about grief to a technical critique of line weight and value.
But that's where the growth happens.
For sure. So we're getting technical now. We're focusing on those elements of formal analysis line, shape, color, value, space, texture, all of it.
And the most consistent, the most actionable critique you got was about value and space. Gleymar, you need to add depth and definition to the background.
To the trees and the leaves.
Yep, the trees and leaves. Right now, they aren't really supporting the main story of the cage. They actually risk flattening the whole composition out.
So if the goal is to really heighten that feeling of isolation around the golden cage, how do we use value and realism in the background to do that?
The answer is layering. The critique specifically suggested adding lighter tones, adding shadows to the trees to increase their realism and definition.
It's like staging a scene.
It's exactly like staging a scene. If the background is too flat or too bright, it pulls your attention. By adding more value, different layers of color, you make the background feel finished.
But not distracting.
Exactly. Finished in a way that respects the foreground. It pushes the setting back, and it emphasizes the psychological space around the figure.
Okay, that makes total sense. We're creating a distinct plane of focus. But there was another move suggested about space and contrast. Something about a black area around the floating elements.
That is a masterstroke, a real masterstroke in manipulation. That dark area, it basically acts like a spotlight.
So you're using maximum contrast.
Maximum contrast to give those caged elements more emphasis, more attention. When you put something dark behind something light and gold, the eye has nowhere else to go. You're forced to confront the isolation in the cage.
I love that. You're turning contrast into a conceptual weapon.
Sure.
Okay, let's jump from the technical stuff to synthesis. This is where the materials meet the big idea. The feedback mentioned integrating real materials.
Yes, and this moves us beyond just painting skills. This is intentional material synthesis. The idea was to bring in, say, leaves from a real tree and put them in the background.
Okay, so why is adding a real leaf conceptually stronger than painting one? That's what I'd ask.
It's a great question.
Because sometimes painted elements can be smoother, right?
Yeah.
Isn't there a risk that adding real stuff could look, I don't know, gimmicky?
That risk is exactly the point of a sustained investigation.
Ah, okay. It's about showing the risk-taking.
It shows intentional experimentation. When you bring in organic elements, a real leaf, maybe a piece of actual gold leaf, you introduce texture, fragility, a connection to the real world.
And for Gleymar theme, with nature and adapting after moving countries.
It provides even more symbolism. It shows a skillful synthesis of process-mixed media and material, the organic element, to support the idea of connecting to a place, to nature.
And connecting this back to the whole portfolio, the big picture.
Yeah.
The next step isn't just making SI5 look better than SI4.
No.
It's about proving the entire sustained investigation actually happened.
Precisely. The SI needs 15 images that tell a story of growth. And that story has to include you documenting your practice, your experimentation, your revision over time. The changes we're talking about, the depth, the value, adding those leaves, those are the experiments you have to track.
So the documentation isn't just paperwork. The process sketches, the models, they're part of the evidence. You need to show how the idea developed. That whole cycle. Make, reflect, revise, connect.
And this directly impacts the selected works section too. Remember, even if you submit pieces that look very different, they have to demonstrate that synthesis of materials, processes, and ideas. The synthesis is the glue holding the whole body of work together.
So if you do deepen the value on the trees, and you do integrate the real leaves, that has to be crystal clear in your written evidence. You only get, what, 600 characters for that prompt?
That's it. It forces you to be an editor. You have to boil down your biggest conceptual and technical moves into just a few powerful sentences.
The best ones show a clear dialogue between the art and the words.
Exactly. If you say you experimented with mixed media, we need to see the leaves, and we need to understand how that choice deepened the theme of adaptation.
Okay, so here's where we pivot to strategy. We've talked about fixing the current piece. But how do we make sure the next piece shows proactive conceptual growth?
Right, moving from fixing to developing.
Yeah, how do we get ahead of it?
We can use advanced critique methods, but as intellectual tools, like a scholar would use research tools. This is how you push the conceptual evolution beyond just refining technique.
Give me an example, like comparative analysis.
Exactly. You have a body of work. Compare SI4 with SI1. Identify how a shift in color or a move from flat color to high value expresses emotional isolation differently than cultural adaptation. Maybe the early piece used harsh lines for anger, and now SI4 uses blended value for a quiet melancholy. That's demonstrable growth.
Or what about iconographic analysis?
Yes, go deeper on the symbols you're already using. What's the cultural meaning of the macaw in its native habitat? Or the golden cage beyond just imprisonment?
Yeah.
How do these things connect to broader stories about grief and loss?
And since the critique brought up adapting to a new culture, contextual analysis feels really powerful here.
It's perfect. You could investigate the cultural context of the specific type of tree you're using, or the significance of the macaw to the regions you've lived in.
The symbolism then moves from a personal metaphor to something much richer, a cultural statement.
All the sources really emphasize one thing: risk failure to discover something new. This isn't about making 15 perfect pieces. It's about showing you are willing to try new things, make comparisons, push your materials. That risk-taking is how you show depth.
Okay, let's synthesize this for everyone listening. The 3 key action items to push this visual evolution forward.
1. Intensify the visual structure of your next piece right now. Focus on depth, value, and contrast. Finish that background and use that black space to push the isolation of the cage.
2, document everything, the evolution, the synthesis of materials, like adding those leaves, and make sure your written evidence clearly explains it as proof of your experimentation.
And 3, use those critique methods as tools. Comparative, iconographic, contextual analysis. Use them to strategically guide your next works to make sure your growth is intentional.
And for our final thought, a provocation for you to explore. Artistic integrity is everything, and the AP policy is very clear that if you use pre-existing images for reference, a photo of a macaw, a specific tree, you have to provide a short citation, 100 characters max.
Which is not a lot of space.
Not at all. It forces you to be incredibly concise.
So the question for you to explore is this. Instead of seeing that little 100-character box as just a chore, an administrative task, what if you see it as a final conceptual layer?
Oh, I like that.
How can you use that concise citation to further enrich the context of your artwork, to show you're aware of your sources, and to add another layer of meaning? The citation itself becomes part of the dialogue. It proves you've done the deep contextual research that supports your visual moves.
Use every resource you have. From the contrast of light and dark, all the way down to that tiny citation box. Make every single choice intentional. That is how you show true mastery.
Good luck with the revisions.
Fantastic deep dive today. We'll see you in the next investigation.